Hi everybody, I'm Rasta Maice from Rasta Maice Painting, and here we are on our second set of videos. You've seen a little taster to kind of give you an idea what the Patreon's all about and what you're going to be getting. And this is going to be a series of 3 videos. You're probably going to get one every 2 weeks, and we're going to do a little project, and this is to really kind of show you where we're going and what you're going to get when you sign up for the Patreon. Today we are going to be doing a lovely little project. We're going to be taking a standard dial cover and turning it into the infamous furry falcon dial cover to match the ship or to run with your Wookie gunships or whatever. It's basically, we're going to touch on 3 core aspects of model making and painting. We're going to do a little bit of flat line, we're going to do some green stuff work, and finally in the last video we're going to paint it and we're going to do some airbrushing, as well as some normal hand brush work. So you're going to get a little bit of a taste of everything. So I'll crack on. So I'm going to start with a base dial, and I'm going to talk you through what you guys need to be doing to prep these things before you work on them, even if you're just painting them. So I use these. These are super fine sanding pads you get from a DIY store. It's fine and super fine. This plastic is really notorious for not taking paint. So you want to key it, and these are like foam. So you want to go over all your flat edges. Before we start doing anything, you want to clean your surfaces. You want to make a little key. This is so fine, it's not going to damage the plastic, but it is going to slightly abrade the surface. So your primers are going to stick, your glues are going to stick, so on and so forth. It's really important. When I first started doing dials, I spent ages painting them, only to find after a couple of weeks use, the paint and bits and bobs had come off. And I mean, we're not too worried about getting right in these nooks and crannies because they've got natural abrasion just by the fact that they're shaped and they're not flat. So the paint's got something to adhere to. So I'm quickly just going to go over in and out. And what I've done a bit like Blue Peter. I've already made some of these things. So you're not going to have to sit here and watch me actually do one of these, because there's probably, say, 4 hours labour in each dial. This is what you've got to give yourself. So a little clean in and out. I'll just make it nice and quick. Get all your dust off, blow it off. Now here's the real key. IPA. This is isopropanol alcohol. It's a big word for a small man like me. It's pure alcohol. I think they use it for cleaning nails and stuff like that. All you want to do before you do anything else, I use these for all my Yankee friends. These are, what do they call them in America? Well, in England, they're called cotton bugs.
Yeah.
So we invented the language, so I'm going to stick with English. So these are Q-tips.
Q-tips.
Q-tips, got it. So you want a Q-tip or a cotton bud, and you want to soak it in IPA, and you want to just go over the whole thing, and you want to get whatever nasty, horrible release agents are on this off. This is also going to help your paint to stick. Get in there, get in all your nooks and crannies. It doesn't matter if you put a bit on. It's not going to damage your plastic. It will damage paint. It will take paint off, so you don't want to be doing this on paint. I do know some people use this to remove glazes, but that scares the life out of me. So that's it. That's what you want to do before we start doing anything else. So it's IPA, a little sand first, a little bit of IPA, let it dry, hair dryer, or just in natural air. So this dial, it's got kind of, this is the main bandolier. This is what we're going to make today. And this is all made flat line. So flat line is sculpting, but it's sculpting with flat stuff basically, or geometrical shapes. You're not sculpting with putty and you're not sculpting with a sculpting tool. You can get this stuff, as you can see here. These are all packs of plastic, and there's tubes, there's rods, there's rectangles, there's squares, there's I-beams. The stuff you can get is incredible. We stock some of it at Warlords, but you'll find other stuff on the internet. Good model railway shops will have really big stocks of this stuff. And this is kind of sheet plasticard. This is quite thick. You can get it down to, I don't know, 1/10 of a mil, something like that. This is probably 1.5 millimeters thick, which is quite thick, but it still has got its places. That's what flat line sculpting is, just to debunk that myth. So I've started off with this. This is like a 1mm thick piece of plastic like that. And I cut it into a strip, and I want to attach that across this base so that I can then build my bandolier up on it. So all I'm going to do is I'm trimming it to roughly the width of the actual dial. So I'll make a little mark with a pencil just to give me an idea. And when you cut plastic card, like when I cut that piece, I did score the whole edge and kept going, and then I snapped right at the end. When you're doing something like this, all you've got to do, as long as you make a nice clean incision, you don't need to go all the way through, then take your plastic and just snap. It should break off pretty clean. Now this is going to be mounted across here. So now here's a big tip. This plastic's a nightmare to get anything to stick to. Sticking this bit to this dial is the hardest part of this whole job. So you need to super glue this center point and your edges, put this on, and here's your trick. Clamp it in a vise all night long. Do not touch the dial until the next day. That glue will not dry. It just takes ages to actually create a good bond on this plastic. So that's your trick. Glued on, stuck together, clamped in your vise, left alone. Leave it to dry, come back to it the next day. So, as they say in Blue Peter, here's one I made earlier. Because we haven't got all night to wait for the plastic glue to dry. So it's stuck on, it's nice and secure. All I've done then is I've gone over the little bits that were stuck out the side. I've gone over and I've just scored with my knife along the edge, broken off, cleaned up slightly, either with a knife or with a modelling file. And then what we want to do is we want to make some little bits which are going to be, I don't know, I think they're meant to be his ammo pouches that are actually on the bandolier. Now, I've got some more plastic card. This is slightly thicker. This is probably about 1.2 mils. I've cut it to a slightly narrower length than the narrower width than the piece going across the bandolier. I sectioned it off into 5mm sections, and I'm going to do what I just showed you. So using your knife, I just create, and this is quite thick, create a nice score, snap the plastic, and you've got a piece. Right, so this is where it does get a bit fiddly, but if you put this work in, it's what's going to step your model up. So if you just snapped it off, stuck it on, ultimately your paint job's only as good as what you're painting. So the most beautiful painted models are the ones that are the tightest sculpts. So if you give a painter a really tight sculpt, he's going to be able to do a really good job. If you give him a sloppy sculpt, it's not going to work. And this is exactly the same for this. So instead of just thinking I'm done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I use a Swan Morton. This is a surgeon scalpel. You can get these from any art shop, and I really don't think you should be using anything else. Your X-Actos and your hobby knives are not as good as these things, but these blades are like razors, so you need to be careful. And I will cut towards my skin. I know you shouldn't, but honestly, you have to work a knife a certain way to control it. It's just about time. Don't freak out. Do have a first aid kit on hand as you get used to using these tools. So all I'm doing is I'm going along each of these edges and creating a little bevel. So I'm just cleaning my edges up all the way around each one of these pieces. So that's going to take off. When you push a knife into plastic, it creates like a rise because you've pressured it and you've pushed it out of form. So that's now nice and clean. I take my little file and I'm just going over these edges just to take off the burr. Right, this is all really important. When you sculpt, whenever you're making anything, you need to take your time and do things properly and prepare your pieces. And there you go. I'm going to pop this under the close-up and you can just see it's just a tiny little bit of cleaned up plastic. Right. So, and here's 6 I made earlier. It's for one of my Patreon viewers that has asked me to pop that into our videos. I think that's twice already so far. I'm sure I can get it in a few more. So I've got 6 of these pieces because that's how many I need to go across my bandolier. And I've marked with my little ruler and a pencil roughly halfway along this, so I know a good point to keep things separated out. I've also got these smaller pieces which are cut from another smaller piece of plastic. Now this is just slightly less high than this because this is going to fill in my gaps between my bullet belts. And I've cut these at 3mm pieces. So I'm going to stick one of those, then one in the middle, and then another one. And I'm going to repeat the process. And we're going to build the bandolier up. All right. So I use a really good quality super glue. Again, any model shops, we have them here at Warlords. You can get different thicknesses of super glue as well. As you can tell by this, I like the thick one. It holds its spot. It also gap fills a little bit when you're working, which can be helpful. And you could use plastic glue, right? But as you'll see later on, maybe not so much in this bit, super glue allows you to work really quickly. And I need certain things to dry instantly. If I'm waiting for plastic glue to dry, I have to wait till the next day. Plastic glue also damages the plastic. So if you make a mistake, so you can go back and clean over a damaged area with plastic glue, but the plastic's been affected by the glue. So you have to wait for it to dry, 24-hour process. I haven't got time for that, you haven't got time for that. So we're gonna use super glue. Also, you make a mistake, knife underneath, click, it's off, clean it up, do it again. Can't do that with plastic glue. Right, if you were building a model kit, plastic glue is probably the way, but we're not building a model kit. So I'm using a toothpick for my glue. Don't need to put much, little spot of glue. The tip of my Swan Morton is just enough to pick up this piece. And I'm gonna put that on. Look at me, I've got shaky hands. And that's stuck. And I'm gonna get my little piece, which goes just here. So this is gonna give me my spacers. Let's just check the width. Yeah, it's this way around. So this goes in the middle like that. And I'm going to carry on all the way down my bandolier. Now a nice big piece. Let's get a little spot more of that. And again, onto the small piece. Really simple. So you made yourself a little kit, and that's literally all you're doing, is working your way through. Try and keep things centered. Look, if you want it to be really super anal and you're worried about going off, draw a line down the middle. I've done a few of these dials now. I kind of know where I'm at. So, and again, try and get this done for you guys as quick as possible. But honestly, guys, the more time you put into something, the better the result's going to be. I need a little bit more super glue on that one. Right, nearly done one off. So already we're starting to build up something that's starting to look like a bandolier. Nice and simply. It's all geometric shapes. A lot of people kind of overcomplicate a lot of sculpting. You just need to kind of undress it and look at where the geometric shapes are and how they've been built up. It generally is just putting geometric shapes on top of geometric shapes. God, I said geometric a lot in that sentence. I'll try not to say that again in this podcast, guys. But now I feel like Sheldon and I really want to say it again. 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my 6 piece. Alright, so nearly there. And on we go. Last piece. Touch more. Okay, so I'll put it under this camera so you can have a look nice and close. You've just got the base shape built up at the moment. Glue's on, let the glue dry. I'm gonna speed up that process with the aid of my trusty hairdryer. There's a little trick. I've got a little bit too much glue just on this side there, so I've got a little bit of spare plastic, and I've just run my plastic with a square edge against that, just to clean off that excess glue, because we don't want that there. And you can't clean nothing up until that glue's dry. So when you're at that point and the glue's dried up, you can then go back over what you've done here before we go any further, and you can just check it and go, do I want to just clean that a little bit more? Is there any imperfections on that? In fact, Sign of old age. I need to switch to the glasses, I'm afraid, everybody. Don't laugh. Okay, the beard's back. Now I've got the glass. John's laughing at the moment. I've gone all foggy as well. It's you lot. You get me excited. Right, so here we go. Glasses are on. Aha, I can see, everyone. I can see. I'm not using the force. I only use the force when I play X-Wing. So I've just gone over, checked anything I want to clean. Some of this, if you ever get any glue and you don't, you know, you can be fastidious. Get your knife, go in, clean that dry glue out, right? This is really important. This is the sort of stuff that if you were just even painting a model, you need to go around, check there's no mould lines, no burr edges. So I'm almost carving that glue off, getting anything off there, so that I know when I come to paint this, I haven't got no weird little burr lines. It's all nice and it looks like it's a real model. It's something that's been made by a big machine in a big manufacturing plant, not by me sat at a table. Right, that bit's done. Now the next bit of the bandolier is, because you've got these bits that fill in the gaps, but I've actually got a strap that goes all the way over the top. And I could have done that with green stuff, but it's actually like really time consuming and hard work. So what I've done is these little filler gaps help me to create, they're going to help me to create this ripple effect. This is really thin. It's in one of my packets, same sort of thing. It's not a rectangle, but it's nothing to it. It's like 1/10 of a mil or a 1/5 of a mil. So I'm going to get roughly, I need extra, the width of the dial. Right, now, but this is so soft, I can create hard edges with it with a sculpting tool. So I take this is my Swan Morton, this is what this is my Wax 5, this is what I sculpt with. But it's also really good because it's got a nice hard edge. So I want to start in the middle, because what I want to do is I want to push this just there like that, right? And it's going to create a little indent. And I'm going to hold my piece of plastic and I'm going to push here and create another indent. All right. Now I'll show you, once I've glued this, it'll all start to make a little bit of sense what I'm doing. And I just want to glue this centre piece. And this is again why I use super glue. I'm not using plastic glue. Sometimes when you breathe out on super glue, you create moisture. And moisture helps super glue to dry, believe it or not. It was designed to fix wounds in the Vietnam War. I'm sure the more beardy of you know that. But I'll just bring that one. So again, I'm going to blast that with a hairdryer. I need this to be dry. I'm going to go under my close-up and show you what's happened. So as you can see, it's followed the contours because there's a slight dip, right? Now let's move on. So now holding this piece with my finger, I'm going to just push this down and repeat. Ooh, I've unstuck myself. So this is real model making, yeah? You can see, sometimes you need to just go back. I've got that original stamp, so I know where that goes. It goes just there, bang. So I'm moving along. And now what I'm trying to do, I suppose you'd call this scoring. I'm almost scoring the plastic to the next area. And then bending over. Are you just going to stay stuck for me? It's fighting with me, everyone. I'm probably rushing it a little bit. Stick, you stinker. And I wanted to use super glue because it dries quick. Alright. So, same process, I'm going to the next one. As I start to stick this will get easier. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. Now I've got the two bits stuck, it's starting to take a little bit better. So I'm working along, let's put it down here, it's a better place for you to see it. So I'm working along and it's starting to follow, but it's going over the top. So it's dipping in, going over, dipping back in. And I'm going to keep doing that all the way along this piece until I get to the end, both ends. So it's a push. You could use the back of this, for example, if you haven't got a sculpting tool, just to create the same sort of line. If you've got good nails, I bite my nails, I'm afraid to say. It's my bad habit. And then I'm going to push that round the edge here. So plastic art can be quite forgiving, as you can see. I've created a shape now. Look, I'll show you that actually before I stick it down. I don't know if you guys can check that out properly. Let's have a look. Let's turn that like that. So you can see it's created this profile in this bit of plastic. All right, so all I want to do is stick that down now. So you can imagine how hard this would be to do with a piece of green stuff. Making flat shapes with green, it isn't impossible. In fact, I'm going to show you how to do a bit on it later, but it isn't easy. And let me tuck it in there. Alright, so just leave a little bit of pressure on that for a second. Let's just trim that. I'm going to just cut that. Now I know where I am at. That will help me to stick that down a little bit better. See, the toothpick's important as well. You can't get glue in little gaps when you're trying to squeeze it out of a tub, and you don't want too much glue. So I'll just repeat that process. It's stuck on really nice now. I'll repeat that process this side. So you're getting your piece of plastic, you're scoring, pushing that in, and then we can bend it over this part, and again a score and a score, bend it over, and your final score. So let's trim that down. Can stick this whole piece in one go this time, because we've got something holding it on the other side. Right, so I'm just holding this for a few minutes. When it's all dry, you need to go over the same process that I showed you just after we stuck on the main parts. So you want to check it for excess glue, let it dry, clean it off, go over with your scalpel. Yeah, be fastidious. I mean, look, so I've just pulled my fingers off and it's pretty hard. I'm not even going to be able to show you, but just trust me that it's picked up little bits off my skin, all right? And I don't want that on that model anymore. So now I'm going to go over. With these Swan Mortons, the point's so nice, you can get right along that 90 degree and clean that edge. Because when you put a brush against that, if you've obscured that 90 degree with glue, it's just not going to paint up as nicely. So that's what we're doing along here. That is pretty much at the flat line bandolier. There's one little detail we need to add. So plastic card comes in flat shapes, it also comes in round shapes. This is how you put little rivets and little bits of detail. So I want to put a rivet on both ends of this bandolier strap to make it look like it's a proper bit of cloth. All you've got to do is take your Swan Morton and just slice through this. And you might need to slice this 10 times till you get 2 of them that are the same thickness. And 2 of them that are nice and flat. That's all right, half a dozen of them might ping off as well, but this is the joys of making models. It wouldn't be any fun if it was easy. Right, so I've got 2 there. So now instead of me putting the glue and then the plastic, I'm just going to, this is where labour of love. You take a little bit of plastic on the tip of your, you dip it in your glue, take the excess off, and then stick it where you want it. Come on, let go, let go. Okay. And we suddenly have the button that holds his bandolier strap to the piece of leather webbing. It's little bits of detail, right, that will take your models. Like when I first painted my first Millennium Falcon, and I painted it just to look like the film, I went over and I put loads of these little square ones, little round ones, all the little gribbly detail they hadn't done, which is on, it's got on the model, and then it gives you something to put a wash around, it gives you something to pick up. That little spot of silver on that brown just will lift it. So, and that was nothing. So that is the flat line side of the dial cover. I mean, the strap's going to go over the side, but I don't need to make that with plastic because of the way this curve is. In order to get the plastic to bend that way, it's going to be a nightmare. I can do that with green stuff, but green stuff's next episode. I don't want to like blow your mind. One stage at a time, nice and easy for you guys to digest, and you should be able to take a lot of what I've just showed you and translate that to any kind of modelling job you want to do. Take your time, clean your pieces up, nice work area, have an idea of what you want to do, and break it down in your mind. Don't make it so complicated. As you can see, I'll put that under there, right? It looks complicated. It looks even more complicated once you start. I'll show you the one with the green on it. But once you start breaking it down to just like I showed you, a simple bit of plastic with some other little bit of plastic added to it, it's not as big a deal. So that's it for today. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. I'll see you in a couple of weeks and we will get some fur on this bad boy, and I'll show you and talk to you about sculpting with green. So one love, everyone. See you soon. Don't forget, support my Patreon. The more you support me, the more we'll be able to invest. We're running 3 cameras today. We hope to have shinier kit. The more you guys support, the more feedback you give us. We'll try and make them really what you want, but hopefully you enjoy this as much as you did the first, hopefully a bit more. Till then, one love. See you later.